So who was pedagogy designed for originally? Well, you've said children, but what kind of children?
Children entering the church.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it doesn't include girls,
No,
just boys.
just boys, yeah.
Boys.
And it's going to train them to be faithful, obedient servants of the church. Now you can see what's happened over the last 1,000 years, where the monasteries were one of the very few places where education took place. People have looked inside and thought, oh, that's how you teach. When you see these poor little boys being talked at all day long, perhaps in ranks of desks, line by line. And that still perpetuates today, isn't it? Where people think all we have to do is talk at people all day long, and that's technically teaching. But maybe there's a bit more to it than that. So pedagogy, originally designed for training young boys to become monks, but people have thought, well, there must be other ways of doing it, so we've got andragogy. Now, looking at andragogy, perhaps you've heard of the word of facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it mean to be a facilitator?
I guess it's somebody who makes sure that the appropriate bits are covered. I mean, you even get a facilitator at a conference who facilitates the speakers so they come in.
Yes.
So they don't actually do very much, but they make sure that everything happens.
Absolutely. So they're there to facilitate learning, providing the environment, the context, the equipment, whatever else is needed to make learning happen with the learners themselves, but they're not actually doing it, which is the key word you mentioned there, Georgina. So facilitator is a good word. So they're empowering learners to learn for themselves by facilitating the session, but not directly controlling it. And we've got a double-headed arrow here. So what might that double-headed arrow be signifying?
Does it signify that different learning approaches can sit on a scale between
Yes.
from the middle to each extreme?
Absolutely. So it's not usually one or the other, it's a mix of the two. It's a continuum, really. So you're shifting up and down that line. At the moment I'm being very pedagogic, but later on I'll be more andragogic, and then later completely andragogic. So you're shifting up and down that line as you think appropriate, according to perhaps the topic, the learners, so many other things as well. And the skill of the teacher, the tutor, is to know which bits to use and when. Now, if you can imagine teaching is represented by a big wagon wheel, and as it's rolling along, learning is being generated. And we've got the learners perhaps on the outer rim of this big wagon wheel. Now, if you were teaching very pedagogically, where would the teacher be in this wagon wheel, perhaps? What position would they be in?
The hub.
Right in the middle, right in the hub. So there's the teacher teaching pedagogically and doing what I'm doing now, using the spokes, if you will, to ask questions, get answers back, ask you to do things, and then review and monitor what you've been doing. So that's the teacher, like I'm doing right now, acting at the hub of that big wagon wheel and using the spokes to communicate with the learners. Now, if you were teaching very andragogically, where would the teacher be in relationship to this wagon wheel now?
On the outside with the learners? I don't know.
Well, if the teachers teach andragogically, it says they're allowing them to learn for themselves, so therefore wouldn't be with the learners.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely off the wagon wheel. So there's the teacher teaching andragogically,
Yes.
but completely off the wheel. Now, the teacher is available to look on and make sure things are going on as they should be, and will have designed a structure in which the learners can learn for themselves. So it's not a free-for-all, it's working within tight constraints, instructions, and so on, and time periods. So it's definitely not a free-for-all. So the learners are now using the spokes to communicate with each other directly. So pair and group work particularly will be a feature of andragogy. So they're learning from each other because they're adults. They have those problem-solving skills. They can do it. But the teacher is on hand to guide, support, and advise, but is not part of the teaching and learning process. The learners are doing that for themselves. Any idea when that word andragogy came along, do you think? 1960s, 70s, 80s, or earlier? What do you reckon? What yearish did that word come about? Any thoughts?
Knowles, 84.
Malcolm Knowles was talking about it in America in the 1980s, certainly in a very big way.
Yeah.
But it actually was born in about 1827. 1827, yeah, in Eastern Europe. Because people had realised they don't like to be talked at all day long. That's not the way adults learn. They like to be doing stuff, usually problem solving, where they get excited, find it fun, they're emotionally engaged. So what we're saying is it's not a new concept, it's been around for over 100 years. So it's a very important concept that we need to be aware of. Now we've got a quiz on the next page, and you're going to work through the quiz to work out which teaching methods are andragogic, which are pedagogic.